Hey there, what's happening YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into the channel today, right here with the Rustbelt Mechanic. It's a hot one today in the shop. We had all kinds of stuff going on. The shop has been a crazy place, including we have hired ourselves a new lube technician, new hourly guy here for the shop starting on Monday. So I kind of got a chance to talk with him today. He was a whole lot better than the guy I interviewed in that video. What's up, bro? But anyways, he's starting on Monday, and I told him that I'd give him a couple of pointers on starting. He's kind of worked at a couple of shops before, just lube change places before, so want to kind of give him the reins and try to get him initiated in on what kind of inspection process we do. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, my specific inspection process on vehicles that come in for maintenance services. So before I even get into a customer's vehicle, I'm going to walk up to it and I'm going to give it a visual inspection, make sure there's no big dings, dents, bashed in panels, you know, just kind of note that ahead of time if there is. Second thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to test their key fob and make sure it unlocks and locks. Make sure it works both of those times, because anytime you get into a vehicle and it says key fob battery low, it's an easy upsell for you. Say, hey, you know, for like 10-15 bucks, we can swap out the batteries in your key fob for you. Most people, they don't want to mess with these little electronics. So quick, easy thing for you guys to check. Next, let's go ahead and get into the vehicle and let's get the lights turned on. Check those first. Turn on and check your headlights, as well as your tail lights and running lights. License plate lamps included. After checking out your lights, we're going to hop in the vehicle, and instead of just bringing it straight around to put it into a bay, let's go ahead and just run it throughout your parking lot. Run it down and back an aisle. Listen for any kind of suspension jounces, clunks, rattles, anything like that that you could point out just with a simple test drive just around your dealership parking lot. So then let's go ahead and get it in and let's get it racked. And pro tip before you get out and get the thing racked, make sure that your wheels don't have locking lug nuts. If they do, this would be a good time to grab the locking lug nut key from the center console or wherever the customer's got it stashed, and you got to play Find Waldo for it. Pop the hood. At this point, I like to rack the left-hand side of the car. Next, let's go ahead and get in under the hood. Now, a good thing at this point is to have a nice handy pocket flashlight. I like to have myself a nice little Streamlight Stylus Pro right here. That's what I use to check a lot of the fluids. Hold this up to the bottom of all the bottles, making sure all of the fluid levels are up to the normal fill levels. If you find something that's low, make sure you go ahead and pop the cap off, like the washer fluid here. I know it's low. Pop the cap off, so that way I know for everything that's still low, the cap is still open. Go ahead and pull my oil fill cap off, because I know I've got to replace that. Another pro tip on this one, to make sure that you don't leave a vehicle without oil in it or forget to put oil into it, make sure you take your oil cap, put it right where the latch goes. That way you can't close the hood without being sure you put oil in it. Check all the rest of my fluids. If the vehicle has a trans dipstick, most of the time that one has to be checked while it's running. Usually I'll check that one after the whole inspection process. Make sure you check everything there, and then always make sure you check your air filter. Even if it takes you an extra couple of seconds, you know, if there's a couple of screws or whatever it takes to get to the air filter, don't be a lazy son of a gun and actually check it. So our air filter is good on this one. Fluids are good, except for the washer fluid. So we'll get that one topped off. Every time you top one of these fluids off, you can go ahead and flip the lid closed. At this point, it's also a good time to do a quick battery test. Having a nice, quick, easy battery tester makes a big deal in this one. I like using the Top Don Art Battery 101. I did a review on this one a very long time ago. I'm sure you could find it on one of my early tool review videos. This one makes it really simple. Hook it up to ground, hook it up to power, and you're just a couple of clicks away through this one. Testing. And we actually have a junk battery. This one's gonna need replaced. It's that quick, that easy to test for a battery, less than 20 seconds, and we're gonna do an upsell here on a battery. At this point, walking around to the passenger side of the vehicle, this is when I'm gonna check my wiper blades. The front ones here, make sure there's no frayed edges or any of the wiper material coming off. You can most of the time check and see what kind of a white pattern that the wiper blades have, because be honest, most people don't wash their car very much, so you can see where the windshield wipers have wiped. If there's obviously a really bad pattern in there, make sure you check those wiper blades really good, replace them if necessary. So now let's go ahead and check the back wiper, and then let's set the legs on the passenger side. Looking pretty decent back here, other than we've got a little bit of fraying on the end. You see we got a little pigtail sticking out right here. So we're actually gonna quote them a rear wiper blade. Now before you guys get this thing put too far up into the air, open up your passenger side door and open up the glove box. One of the biggest missed upsell items for technicians is the cabin air filter. They think that, oh, it's too hard to get to. No, really, it takes you like 15 seconds to open the glove box, push the two little pins in, lower it down, and there's usually one single flap door on 95% of Chryslers, GMs, and Fords. Really easy thing to check. Make sure you do that before we get it up in the air. Now we'll get this thing up into the air. Another tip, if you're working on any kind of big trucks that have a big tailgate hanging out the back or a whole bunch of weight in the bed, at this point when you're only like 6 to 10 inches off the ground, make sure you go over to one of the wheels on the front or back and rock it. Just for safety, make sure that thing's going nowhere. You don't want anything happening and these cars falling off a lift. As we walk around the right-hand side of the vehicle, I usually like to grab the tire, and we're gonna grab it and we're gonna shake it side to side, up and down. We're gonna be looking for any kind of looseness in our tie rod ends, ball joints. That's a quick, easy way to do it. Do the right side, then run around and do the left-hand side. Then we're gonna start on our under vehicle inspection process. First part underneath the vehicle, we're gonna wanna check our tread depths. Normally, if you do this for long enough, you're gonna know at what level they're at. These ones are actually below the tread wear bars. These things are pretty bald. I've checked through all 4 of them, and we're at like 1 to 3 30 seconds at most. So we definitely need to quote them a set of tires, especially coming up on wintertime here in Ohio. Now to our visual under inspection. We're gonna check real quick our suspension, brakes. We're gonna look at the trans pan, engine oil pan. We're gonna look for any kind of leaks. We're gonna look at our belt wall right here too. This one actually looks pretty new, like somebody had replaced it already. CVs, we're gonna look at them, check those out. Power steering, exhaust. I'm not seeing any kind of leaks underneath of this thing. Let's look back here. Our exhaust looks pretty good. Not too bad there. Let's go along the back side of the vehicle. This is just a front wheel drive vehicle, so it's pretty easy to check there. Checking our struts and everything here on the rear. Looks good, no leakage. Brakes, no leakage on those. And there we are, no kind of leakage or anything like this. At that time, you can go ahead and just kind of visually and try to check and see what kind of depth your brake pads are at if you're not going to do any kind of a tire rotation. But if you are doing a tire rotation, that's when you need to visually do a brake inspection and get out your brake thickness checker and see what kind of level your brake pads are all at. Then at that point, I'm going to go ahead and start to undo the oil filter and the drain plug, let the oil start draining out. And at that time, if I'm doing any kind of a tire rotation, I can have my drain pan sitting here, lower the vehicle a little bit, start to rotate my tires. Also, make sure you want to check your tire pressure. Big thing, people miss it all the time. Tire pressure indicators were mandated as of like 2010 or 11. So all of these vehicles are going to have TPMS lights, and some people are very finicky about them. If you need to check and see what the tire pressure ratios are needed to be set to, usually on the driver's hand side, you open the driver's door, there's a sticker right there that says what your tire pressure values are supposed to be at. At this point, we're going to be able to refill all of our oil and the fluids that we needed to fill after everything. Once you get everything filled, start putting those caps on one by one. We got the washer fluid full, close the cap. After you get oil put into the engine, take that oil cap from the little hinge right here so you make sure you can close the hood. Screw that one down so you know it's been full. After that, we're going to want to start the vehicle. Let it run for about 10-15 seconds, and then we're going to check our oil level. It's always good practice to run your engine for a couple of minutes, then check the oil afterwards. After that, let the vehicle run. If you do have a dipstick like this one does, make sure you check your trans fluid as well. Make sure it's up to par. Make sure it looks good, nice and red for this Chrysler vehicle as well. Last step of the game here is going to be tidying up. Always have a nice little shop rag here in your hand. Any kind of little tiny spills, make sure you get those cleaned up. People are picky here and there, so make sure you get any of those things cleaned up. Any kind of little oil spots. Make sure you get your hood closed all the way. All of your caps are closed, and drop the bonnet. Make sure you didn't put any fingerprints across the front when you were raising or lowering the hood. People don't like to see that one as well. Also, a pro tip, if you have put any kind of fingerprints here on the hood, don't be wiping them off with this shop rag, because you're just going to leave little scratches, and if people are finicky about their paint job, you done screwed something up. Make sure you grab a nice microfiber cloth if you did put any kind of fingerprints here on the front. Same thing with the driver's door handle. Make sure you get that all wiped off. Make sure you also put a nice window sticker up in here so you can remind your customer on when they're going to be returning for a service, or whether they're going to be needed to do another oil change before they get back to your shop at some point in their trip. Then we're going to kick everything out, kick all our legs out, and we're also going to need to reset our oil indicator. What kind of vehicle you have is very dependent on that one. Most of the Chrysler vehicles, it's pretty easy. Key on, 3 gas pedals, key off, key on, and it's reset. GM vehicles are the same way. Now, if you're talking BMWs, Mercedes, those things, you might want to have a nice little scanner or pocket scanner that does oil resets at that point. Make sure you get that one reset. That's the easiest thing that you can do for a customer. Quickest thing that'll also get them pissed off if they get into their vehicle and it still says change engine oil. One last easy item, make sure you guys don't forget, is me personally, I'm 6'4", so whenever I get into a customer's vehicle, I've always got to push the seat back. Make sure you pay attention to where it was at before. Put the seat back forward before you give it to a customer. That'll make them happy as well. Did I tell you what, or did I tell you what? It's a pretty quick, simple, easy process for you guys to check these things over. Now, I'm sure there was a couple of little things, depending on the manufacturer of the vehicle, that I might have missed. If you do a tire rotation, some of the vehicles require you to reset the locations of the tire pressure sensors. A lot of GMs do that, so where you have to rotate them and relearn the vehicle to know where they're at. A lot of diesel trucks have their higher tire pressure sensors in the rear than the front. You have to make sure you readjust the tire pressure sensors to where the tires are now located out. Those are the quick, easy little things that you guys are going to have to pick up along the way, but this simple process right here is what I go through myself. Now, the biggest thing that I want to reiterate to all technicians is make sure you do it the same way every time. If you get into that nice groove and you do this kind of inspection process over and over and over again, it'll get learned into your muscle memory, so you know exactly what you're checking every single time, and you're not going to be missing things over. You already know that every single time. I already know that I checked that because that's at this point in the process. I already know that I checked that because that's this point in the process. Another big thing, make sure you don't let anybody else get in your way or bother you when you're in the middle of it. You're just like, hey man, why don't you just wait here for 2 minutes while I finish my inspection on this vehicle, then we can chat about whatever you needed. Something easy you guys just need to keep in mind. Now down in the comments below, make sure you guys add anything to this if there's something that I missed or you wanted to point out for your own inspection process. If you do things a different way, let us know. Maybe it's a better way than I already do it. I just kind of wanted to put this out. It's a dual video. It's able to help out the new guy for when he starts on Monday. I don't have to go through everything 13 times with him. I'm like, here, why don't you watch this video? And you've got it all written down right there. Or anybody here new to the channel, you're able to see this easy style of inspection process that I go through every time. Make sure you guys get one of your own. If this one works for you, make sure you put it into process and do the same thing again over and over every time. Get it into muscle memory, it'll work out for you. I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in today. We are rocking here on the channel. Make sure you go over and check out www.toolheadscrate.com. It's the monthly subscription crate service that myself, Mr. JRC54, and the Captain Ron have started over 6 months ago. We've had some really awesome months with some great tools, coupon codes, discounts, hats, shirts, memorabilia. It's awesome things that you guys as technicians who like a taste of tools and these tool manufacturers to at least get your foot into the door and see what they're all about. I appreciate everyone tuning in today. Thanks, and as always, you guys stay awesome.